Thanks. I know where you live. We'll put that address up on the Zoom after.
The address, everybody, is right here.
Doug, what else you got to throw at Richard?
Okay, in all seriousness, what did Andy and you really say when you first interacted, and what was it like?
Oh, God, Doug, how long ago is that? I can't remember what Judy said to me last week, let alone that long ago. No, I have no recollection. I don't know. Sorry.
No,
I'd like to be able to make
and look, and I think, because I actually don't think I'd never met you before. I'd never met Sam or anyone. But the thing that I will say to that, Doug, is that when I met Richard, look, I had probably 10 years pro wrestling and about 18 as a judo and Greco-Roman style wrestling. So I had an idea of the arts. But the one thing I found as soon as I met Richard is that even though that I let him know I did that, and okay, great. But what I really got a sense of is it actually didn't matter, because it didn't matter what I've done. It didn't matter what I knew, because even if I didn't know it, then Richard had this way when you first meet him, you actually let go of like, oh, what's he going to teach me and what does he know? It's like you hear him talking here. Really, really easy to just be at peace and calm when you first meet Richard, rather than like, oh, what's this guy? Does he know much? You get already, okay, this guy knows what he's doing. And there was no anxiety about like, okay, let's get into this. It was very easy, slow start into the whole process. And we were there for hours, but it didn't seem like that,
Yeah, thank you, Andy. Yeah, that's nice. No, it was weird. Wow, how much fun did we have on that shoot? For those who don't know, Sam Greco is a friend of ours. Sam was a K1 kickboxing world champion. He was in MMA, et cetera, et cetera. The guy's a beast, and he was doubling Stone Cold Steve Austin, and I ended up fight coordinating and doubling Vinnie Jones, who people would probably know from Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels and lots of other movies. He was an English soccer player. But it was non-stop practical jokes on the whole of that shoot.
My gosh.
That's fun.
Oh, man. I've said that to a lot of people there. And Ray Fazio, Ray was an ex Australian boxing champion, and he's written his own film about him and his dad called now I've forgotten, because it was Two Fists, One Heart. I think that was Ray wrote. Yeah. And he was a great guy. So it was that little crew of like Ray, who are still friends with, and Sam and yourself and Stone Cold and Vinny. Oh my God. I just sat back and just lunchtime was hilarious. It was just the funniest stuff going on. And anyone who thought, and I'm not going to mention any names because I can't remember them anyway, but anyone who thought that they could top what Vinny was saying or Stone Cold or yourself, they lost really quickly, mate, because the comebacks were so quick that you could see the people trying to keep up with them just went, it's not worth it. It's just not worth it, because they're so quick and funny because they've had so much life experience. Like, it was hilarious. It was a fun shoot. Yeah, it was a fun shoot. And Sam's going to be on next week. He's going to talk about, his acting career, and he was that big mask guy in Scooby Doo, and he's done pro wrestling, WWF, and Sammy, most people know that he had a heart attack only a while ago. Quite severe one, and the dude is back training with videos on Instagram, like straight back into it, just like you said, Rich, like you just don't stop, No,
it's a little hiccup in the road, and Sammy's a beast, I love Sammy, and he's training a guy called Jimmy Crute, who's going to be hopefully another MMA champion, already had a number of wins, so he never stops. But that's the key, though, Andy. As I said, just be a part of it. Don't lie. Otherwise, the alternative is we lie in a little fetal position and just basically shut down. Illness, whatever it is, adversity. Yes, it's difficult depending on what it is. Of course, I understand that. But as much as possible, just get on with it. Today is the first one of the rest of your life. What happened last week, 6 weeks ago, obviously you'd have to factor it in, but just get on with it. Sammy's just like that. I still remember chasing, I was on Condemned, I was chasing Doubling Vinny, and we're going over all these rocks in Tambourine Mountain, isn't it? You know, whatever it's called, all these rocks. So I'm doubling Vinny, and I'm chasing Sam Greco, who's doubling Stone Cold, and they had a camera on a wire above us, you know, a traveling sort of shot, no sound or anything. So I could say anything, you know, and I'm chasing Sam over these rocks, and I'm screaming the most vile stuff. You fat prick, you better run. Look at that jiggling ass of yours, you know, when I get hold of that. All this disgusting stuff, a lot of which I won't even repeat. So we get to the end, and finally I hear cut, and I happen to look off to my right, and I'm looking at a mum and a dad with their 2 kids who'd walked down this little kind of track, you know, down the side of the hill. And I was like, and they just looked up and they said, it's just a movie. Oh, it's so embarrassed.
Oh, no. That'll teach you. Yeah. That's so funny. That's so funny. And look, I'm sure that you've had. First thing, I'm going to say one thing. We've done a lot together over the years, different things, little movies here and training. But what I've got to tell you, Rich, is, you know, I've been coaching and mentoring a lot of people, including myself. And I'll tell you right now, I am so blessed to have met you and Sammy and Ray, because Sammy had a big part in my turnaround in my journey. Like when we were on set together on Wentworth a few years back, we spent the whole time in the green room just talking about life, because I just said one thing to him. And I'd been coaching people for years, and he just brought all this stuff up, and I went, oh man, you're so right. And so I'm still the same guy that, you know, did things I did, wrong crowd, you know, breaking relationships, but that's not who I am now. But that guy is still there. But that's not who I am. And I'm telling you the truth, not just because we're on here now, but you and Sammy, and honestly.
No, we got the gist, though. I hear you. And Sammy's very into, you know, he does a lot of motivational talking and everything else.
Yeah.
Based on his career as a fighter and what that's about, and the hardship and overcoming. So, yeah, he's a good man to get advice from.
And the thing is, Rich, you pass that on to other people. Like that stuff I'm passing on to Doug and other people, because you're you and Sammy's him, and you keep remembering the things people tell you, and you keep passing that on to other people, or you hold on to some of it yourself, you know?
Yeah. Just tell Sammy he would have got to so much more if he wasn't ugly. I mean...
Yeah, I know.
He looks like he's been headbutting trams up Burke Street.
I did tell him you said that once, and I don't know. He hung up on me and said I've got to call someone. Did you get a call from him?
Oh my God! Hey guys, now that you're doing this, I must ask you guys: have you guys ever thought about doing a stand-up routine together?
Yeah, we have, and Rich lost.
Come on, McPhee, bring it on.
And Sammy went through a tough time with COVID as well. I'm sure he'd tell us about the cafe and all that, which is quite sad, because that was an amazing cafe that he had there. But the stuff I love is like what you talked about, what Doug is going through and what I go through, and Sammy's been through. When you have a core group of people around you who don't want to give up and want to keep getting up and doing whatever they got to do, it's such an inspiration to everybody else watching, because whatever you say here, someone out there is going to watch it and go, wow, you know, I've not been pulling my weight, you know.
You would know on what you're talking about. It's in the doing, you know. Like nobody can tell me that Sam wasn't fearful getting into the K1 ring against some moose from Holland or somewhere, you know what I mean? But and it's the same, you know. To think that people like us don't feel fear is such a misnomer. Every job I take makes me fearful. Am I going to suck? Am I going to be up to the task? Am I going to be able to choreograph or do whatever it takes? But the easiest thing is to walk away going, oh, and find an excuse for not participating. But it's about getting out of your comfort zone, saying yes, and then figuring out how the I going to do this, you know?
Yeah.
And usually we do get through it. Yes, sometimes not as well as others, but it certainly beats, as I said, just retreating, finding an excuse and staying in your little armchair and being a critic of what everybody else does. Get up, be a part of life, you know, challenge yourself, get out of your comfort zone. And that's what it's all about, you know. But again, the point being that you and I and Sam, we all feel fear depending on what we're willing to admit to. They're our personal demons that we deal with as best as we can, you know.
Yeah, 100%. Hey, Dougie, just a couple more before we finish up. I would ask Rich what you were going to ask before. You mentioned to me about the bodyguarding and, you know, some of the great people he's, you know, looked after over the years.
Yeah, Richard, who have you been a bodyguard for?
Oh, Doug. Well, it started off with the Rolling Stones. That was in 1973. And, you know, I worked with them. That was an amazing introduction into touring. You know, I used to end up at 4 o'clock in the morning teaching Mick Jagger karate punches, believe it or not. That was an amazing sort of journey. Worked with Fleetwood Mac, Stevie Nicks when she went solo. James Taylor and Linda Ronstadt for 14 years, David Bowie for 8 years, ABBA, you know, the Swedish pop group. Yeah, it goes on and on. You know, I've had the pleasure of being around, and I always say to people, what's the great thing about those memories is that I got to actually get to know the actual people rather than the character that you see on a stage. Whether you're an actor or a musician, like David Bowie creating his Ziggy Stardust character, you know, that's not David, you know, that's a persona that he created, you know, as part of being an entertainer. But to be able to sit down in a lounge room, off stage, out of public sight with so many of those people and get to actually experience the real human being within, that to me has been the most, you know, that's what I'm most grateful for. I feel very fortunate to see that side of some of these people, you know, and they've been wonderful, wonderful experiences. And I might add, I have learned so much by being around what I call people at the top of their game. You don't get to be a Budstein or James Taylor and have careers that long, or a Mick Jagger, without sort of doing things in your everyday life that result in that sort of longevity in what you do. So it's been a learning experience and everything else, and as I keep saying, so thankful for that experience.